On this episode of the Field Sales Unscripted podcast, John MacDougall and I really dug into the how to build a territory, to build a book of business from scratch. It's more than just emailing, it's more than just calling. We really went through the roadmap, the steps that you need to get in front of your ideal client, how you can cut through the noise and build a book of business that is sustainable. And we also chatted about the reasons why he decided to go from being a sales leader to an individual contributor again. You definitely don't want to miss this episode. John, tell us how you started your career and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, yeah, I got started in sales right out of college. I wanted to get into sales just because I wanted to work with different people, meet different people. I saw some other people that were in sales. It looked very interesting to me. Just got into some basic sales early on. One of the first things I learned, though, which was kind of interesting, was I thought that when I got into sales, I just had to know everything about the product, and I could just go out there and say everything I knew about this product, and I would get the sale. I learned very quickly that wasn't the case. I had to learn how to sell. So I went through some different sales training programs early on, and that was extremely helpful, actually learning how to sell, and then continued with different companies. I got into another company after my first adventure, which was just it was selling storage systems for a company in the Southeast, and that one was very good for just getting started in sales. Then I got into packaging sales, which is a longer sales cycle, and that one was one where you had to build some relationships. So not only did they have to trust you, but you had to understand what they were trying to do, so that you could talk to them, kind of in the as an engineer. So you're kind of qualifying, you were listening. So I was able to get into that side of the business with a company in medical packaging, and I was there for almost 25 years. Most of that was just direct sales. I was doing some mentoring with new sales teams that we were setting up in Asia and Europe and Central America. That was very helpful. It was a lot of fun too, just to be able to mentor these people. But I wanted to get into more. So I wanted to get into more of a management role. So I moved on to another company within the same industry, flexibles versus rigid medical packaging, and was there for a couple of years and got to work with some very good people. And that's where I really started my management style, or my management side of the sales career. That one was very well, it was challenging, but very rewarding. One of the first things that I heard was, you might watch out what you wish for. You may not like to manage. You could be the best salesman, but you may not be able to be the best manager. So I learned from that. I always look for new challenges, whether it's in business or sports or whatever it might be, life. And so that one worked out well. I got back into the rigid medical packaging 2 years later, and then built a medical sales team at this company where I spent just under 5 years. And then I dabbled a little bit into machinery and then sheet. So the machinery was in the same part of the business. It was just a machine that was making the parts. So I was selling those, or managing a team that was selling those. And then I got involved with a company that sold the extruded sheet, and the extruded sheets used in the machines to form these rigid medical packaging parts or trays. So I kind of got a well-rounded aspect of the whole market. And then from there, I got back into the rigid thermoforming, where I'm helping a company build their business. They started at it a little bit differently than these other companies. They got at it, they're coming at it from the medical device manufacturing side, and they're adding packaging to their business, where these other companies got into packaging either in food or consumer, and then worked their way into medical packaging, which is a much more stringent type of packaging, requires a lot more documentation and special requirements. So I liked this company just because of the fact that they understood all the requirements coming into the business, so that wasn't going to be a learning curve, which was the case with these other companies. So um, that's kind of a snapshot of where I started and where I'm at today. I'm in direct sales role right now, and as the business gets bigger, I'll be building a sales team for that company.
Okay, so you have done many different things in various sides or parts of this business or this industry. So how has the industry really changed for you over the past decade?
There's been a lot of changes over the last decade. The first thing that put a huge impact, it was kind of in the middle of that decade, was COVID. And really what changed there was how we interact with our customers. And I'm starting to see it evolve back to where it was before. But what that did was it got people separated. So you had to learn how to communicate face to face like this, without actually being in front of the person, without being close to the person. And that was because of what was going on at that time. It was very difficult for some people. I had some people that were on my sales team that were used to just stopping by a building, walking in, dropping off a brochure, and then having something happen from that. Um, that you couldn't do that anymore. And as you probably know, when you just send it on an email, people get so many emails, they're just going to delete, delete, delete. So it's really hard to get in front of people when you're dealing with it that way. I'm seeing it evolve back now where there's more face to face. I think it's very important that you have more face to face meetings. You can get a lot more out of a face to face meeting than you can either in a video or just a phone call because of you're looking at everything, body language,
Yeah.
how they're looking at you with their eyes. You can tell if they're into what you're talking about or not. Um, and then they can do the same for you. They can see you. It's a way of building trust with that person. And when you're face to face like that, they're able to pick up a lot more, I think. So that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing too is, um, people have to learn how to, I mean, not learn, but the use of computers and emails and other avenues to get through to the end customer has been probably the biggest challenge. Even right now, as a direct salesperson, having to find different creative ways to get through to these people.
Yeah.
People don't just pick up their phones when you call them either. Like, well, I don't recognize that number, so I'm not going to pick that one up. So that one is kind of a challenge by itself. So I've had to kind of figure out ways to just get in front of the people, whether just say quick 15-minute meetings, quick 15-minute video calls, and it's got to be something that kind of catches their attention. So
Yeah.
you got to do your research on that company and a lot of times that person. I'll look at social media sites of the people that are the main contacts. I use LinkedIn, I go into Facebook, I use Google to find out more about the people that I'm trying to get in contact with, to get close to them and try to find a subject that's going to gain their interest. So that part of it has been the biggest challenge, but it's also been the funnest challenge because you have to look at different ways of going about how you're going to pursue this customer or this prospect.
And so you shared the way that things have changed in the industry over the past 10 years and some of your current challenges. And one of the things that I found also that during COVID, everyone, whether you're a field sales or a true inside sales person, we all moved towards that inside sales model. And what I see is the same thing as you. People want to see you now. You physically have to leave your office. And because everybody is getting bombarded with so many emails and there's the use of AI, it's hard to cut through the noise.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned specifically, some of the challenges that you're having is really cutting through the noise and getting in front of the right people. What would you say the hardest thing that you feel in today's economy or in today's world of getting in front of customers or selling? What is that thing for you?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge is just getting that first meeting.
Mm. Okay.
And I think once you get that first meeting, that's going to be able to determine if there's something that can come from that or not.
Mm.
And, and I've been in the short time I've been doing this, I've actually been able to get in front of a large number of people, which has been good, but it hasn't been easy either. So, come to some of the things that I was talking about before, trying to figure out avenues in. So in some of these cases, I've found people that I've known for a while in the industry that are in this company, let's say, then they can do an introduction to the contact that I need. And a lot of times when you have an internal introduction, that helps because now you're not just a number coming in because there's so many people that are trying to contact these, especially the procurement people. They're getting contacted by all different types of people for all different types of products, and they're just overwhelmed. So once you get that name, a way to get in front of that person, that's going to be your starting point. Everything else around it is kind of getting around. I mean, there's a lot of uh, rejection that's going on. And in a lot of cases, I've been rejected by a number of these people, and then found ways to get back in there just by either an introduction or finding something that is of interest to them that is enough to get them to talk to me for just a few minutes. And once I can get that, then we can take it a step further and dig a little bit deeper, and then that's how you get to the next step. So it's even if it's just I even tried just a lunch. Let's go have a lunch and let's talk about your business. Um, everybody's busy. Sometimes that doesn't really work. The other approach I took was finding people at exhibitions, just walking up and talking to different people, introducing myself. The other route that I've taken with this one is joining industry organizations so that I can come in through an organization and maybe get involved with a committee to get to know the people first before actually pursuing them.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot as well. So just planting little seeds, and as the seeds start to grow, then you can kind of cultivate that seed. So
Yeah, so when I do training with teams, I call it the three pillars of prospecting. And you
okay,
literally are hitting all of the pillars because these days people just want to email or call. But I'm like, no, you must get out of your office and go network, right? Where's your ideal client going for their information? Where are they going to meet people? And you know that you're in the right place if none of your competitors are there, but all of your ideal clients are there. And
right.
it seems like you have that based on your experience and based on understanding where your ideal client shows up and what they do and how they do it. And so as you've gotten so creative with really targeting this person and cutting through the noise, talk to us through some of the success that you've had, even whether it's early success or whether you've closed business by using these multifaceted ways of outreach.
Yeah, I think, just starting with what I'm doing more recently, um, I, I wouldn't have been able to get appointments with really any of these people that I've already got projects with if it wasn't for somebody else that I knew or somebody else that I pursued first. So I think the biggest thing is getting through to the people that you know, and then, gathering more information. So like, here's an example where I saw the name of a person that I dealt with a different company. He's moved on to this new company, reached out to him, and he introduced me to somebody else that was involved in this type of project. And then that person said, okay, now I'm not the one that's going to make the final decision, but this person is the one that's going to make the final decision. We go back a long ways, John. I'll introduce you to them, and then you take it from there.
Mhm.
So getting that first, that I think the biggest thing is finding a way to get that introduction or just getting a couple minutes with that person is key. And I was able to do it. Most of them don't want to do it face to face right away. So we get the video call, and then I find find something else that can get me in front of them. Because I really think that being face to face is going to be the most important part. I've noticed, from the beginning of my career to now, that anytime that I can get in front of a customer, I have a much higher closing rate in a project than not getting in front of them. And I've also noticed that when I get in front of the customer, that's where the projects are going to pop up. They're going to start thinking about, oh, what else could I talk to John about while he's here? And I also wonder, well, when I'm not there, am I missing out on projects?
Mhm.
Because, you just wonder because like one customer, every time I went in there, I got a new project just because I went in. And that was not something that could get over the phone. So, I mean, that was one where we just did introductions. I also found, it, did some research, in some areas I would find out, like the closest, like go to an area where I know some of these people might be having lunch or something, just hang out there to see if they're in. And I know what they look like. And
Yeah.
sometimes they know who I am.
Yeah.
And just, it's like, oh, just introduction or, something like that, just a hello. Now they can put a face with it easier,
Mhm.
something like that. And then once you get into the larger companies, is finding ways to really get deeper and know more people within that company.
Yeah.
So that's another key because you never know because people are constantly changing positions. And that's the other challenge that I'm finding is all right, like one more recently where um, my contact introduced me to another one. And when I first reached out to my contact, he said, yeah, we're going to give you an opportunity to quote. And then he said, right, this lady's be the one that you're going to be dealing with. Well, now she's out on maternity leave. That just happened. So now I got to find a different way to get in. So I found another contact. And I'm still kind of pursuing it that way. But this particular one might be one where I might have to wait till she gets back.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's still not a bad thing because now this is one that still has some possibilities. I know that nothing else is going to happen while she's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm not missing out on anything. Just the only thing that's changing is it's going to happen later. So I think a couple of things you have to keep in mind too is one is patience, at least in the business that I'm in,
Yeah.
and the other key one is persistence.
Mm.
So, and
Mhm.
not persistence to the point where you're annoying,
Yeah.
but just the repetition.
Mm.
Not like within every 5 days in a row or something. It's not that. It's just pursuing them or at least finding excuses to reach out to them
Yeah.
more often.
Yeah.
And at some point, kind of like with me, I was being pursued for a job, and I turned them down 3 or 4 times. They hit me on a day where I was just like, gosh, you know what? I think I'm going to listen to them. You never know. It's timing
Yeah.
is also a big thing. So with the persistence, and then some people just respect the fact that you're persistent. It's like, you know what? This guy, he's not annoying, but he's persistent, and I like that. So I'm going to give him a chance to look at this project. So
Right. And I think that, you gave a few key things that I think is really, really important in the world of what I call complex B2B sales, which is long sales cycles with multiple people involved in the purchasing decision, is that persistence is key because your sales cycle is 6 months, 12 months, sometimes even 24 months. And so you can't expect to send 2 or 3 emails and the person is like, yes, I'm ready, because they could have just started a new project. They could be early in the process. But when the time comes for you to be wrapped in, they're going to be like, every couple weeks or every couple months, this person pops up. Or I remember seeing them at this trade show, or they did this presentation, or they stopped by, right? So that persistence is key. And then the patience. I can think about personally in when I was in field sales, one of the things that I did, much like you, when I was building a territory kind of from scratch, I would drive all around the Rocky Mountains, and I was doing lunch and learns, and I was meeting with people, and sometimes I would have a room filled of grad students, and my colleagues would be like, "Wesley, they're not going to buy from you." I was like, "Listen. Today's grad students are tomorrow's customers." And you know what would happen in a year or 2 years or 3 years? They would be like, I'm not even shopping around. I'm going to single source this from you because I taught them things. I helped them understand, right? And so I think that oftentimes we think about the short game, but when we're building pipeline, it's the short, medium, and long-term opportunities we really have to think about.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've seen that example be very successful for some of the companies I've worked for.
Mm-hmm.
And even like one of the people I met with more recently, I met him when he was in college, and he remembered, and I just stayed in contact with him and reached out to him and said, hey, let's just talk. I just want to find out how you're doing, what you're doing. I can explain, where I'm at today. And we met for an hour. We had some lunch, and he goes, gosh, your sales approach is completely different than everybody else that I'm used to. This is just there's no pressure. It's just we're just talking. And I said, well, yeah. I mean, I can't sell you anything unless I understand you have a need. And we haven't even gotten that far yet. So I know you buy some of these things, but I also know you have suppliers, current suppliers. So I can't just come in and say, hey, buy from me because it's me. Um, so we have to get to a certain point on that. And that one actually led, he gave me some contacts of an association, and I ended up joining that association then. And so that one worked out. But one of the companies I was with the longest, they they invested a lot in training, like you were talking about, bringing these students into their facility and touring them of the thermoforming process is what we were selling.
Yeah.
And most of those people ended up with one of the end customers, and they never forgot about that. They said, I remember going to that company and got to tour this really cool thing. They paid for our transportation from school to this exhibition conference, and then they got us pizza. They remember all this, so it's little things.
It's the little things. And I think
Yeah.
that when you look at salespeople that are successful, that have thriving territories, that are never really chasing the next sale, they're not chasing the next sale. They're chasing the next relationship. They're building their book of business. They're the ones who they're not worried about the end of the quarter, the end of the year, because they know that they've built up enough to help feed them and to continue building that pipeline. So you're in this position where you're really crafting something from new. You have this opportunity to build from the ground up. Where do you see the company in the next 5 years?
Actually, I see it growing rather quickly. So the challenge I have right now is I'm representing a company that nobody knows about.
Mm,
So it's a new name.
mm,
So the one thing that I'm trying to do every day is making sure that either through LinkedIn or whatever, I'm getting the name of this company out in front of as many people as possible, and I'm associating it with the end product that we are now selling.
mm,
They're used to selling uh, the actual medical device, or they're used to manufacturing the actual medical device. Now they're making an item that's going to hold the medical device from the factory to the end user, the hospital. So that's what's being added.
mm,
There's so many companies out there that are doing that right now. I'm coming in with a completely different value proposition because of the fact that they are an actual medical device company, but they're supplying a high-end package for this medical device now, and they understand what is needed there. Because the biggest thing that you're up against in this industry is making sure that everything's done correctly. Because if it's not, there could be what's called a recall at the end.
mm,
Usually the recall at the end is due to something that could cause harm or death to the end user.
mm.
And you don't want to be involved in a recall because it's millions of dollars, first of all. Your name gets put on it,
Yeah.
and then you have a black eye. But
Mhm.
it's just that's probably the biggest challenge. So now it's just getting the name out there.
Mhm.
I can't just come in and say, hi, you know me from before. So now I'm with this company, and these guys are the best. I know last time I came in here, I said I was with the best company. So now you should buy from me now because now I'm with another best company. It takes more than just that. They have to, you have to go through the process of just well, first of all, qualifying, but you also have to get them to understand what type of company you are, and they have to have confidence in you. And because you're new, right away that draws some red flags because, wow, are we going to be able to rely on this company? And where I'm drawing from is the fact that this company's been around since 1983, manufacturing high-end products. Now, this is just an add-on to this company. They're very familiar with this process because of the people that are working for them. And now we're going to be able to just add this to the mix that we have. So that's what I'm going through right now. Other than that, you're doing the face-to-face meetings. Again, just getting the name of the company out there. So there's two of us that are selling this product. The other guy is selling other products, so he's not spending as much time selling this. So I'm the main one right
Yeah.
now in this. We
Mhm.
have so next year we plan on adding a salesperson. We've got that in the budget, and I think we will get there. Some of the projects I've already brought in, or at least quoted, I think will come through before the end of the year and will be running beginning of next year. And
Okay.
then there'll be other ones that'll come in the meantime that'll fill in, the
Yeah.
rest of that year. And then some of these projects that we start working on could be 2 years before we actually start producing them. So it's going to vary. The nice thing about the last two projects I brought in was those are projects that are currently being manufactured in China and they're
Cool.
bringing them back to the US. So
Oh,
that's a
okay.
positive for
That
us.
is.
And it's also positive for me because I get this business.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I know who I'm up against. I know that I'm going to be very competitive.
Mhm.
Um, and I've already proven that I can be very competitive.
Mhm.
So, the other challenge I had was this company's out of Canada, so people were worried about the tariffs, but most of this is kind of grandfathered in with some other agreements. So we haven't had an issue with that yet. But even with it, I don't see a huge problem. Our company's even looked at putting maybe a portion of the process or the operation in the US as well. So, that there's warehouses that we have set up in Chicago. So when I quote something, it comes in through Chicago. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you can do to kind of get around some of that, at least
Yeah.
get around the worry. But right now there's just a question mark that people have to get through, and we've been able to do that so far.
Okay. Okay. So, as we kind of come to the end of this episode, one of the questions that I really want to dig into is you went from leading teams back to being essentially an individual contributor with the growth trajectory or the roadmap of rebuilding from scratch. What really compelled you to take that step and to go from the top of the mountain back all the way down?
I so I enjoyed both, and I look at it this way because the last job I had was a player coach. So I managed the sales team, but I also handled half their business from a direct sales
Ah.
standpoint. I really liked the interaction, the the challenge of getting that sale. And you
Mm.
didn't get that when you were the manager.
Yeah.
So I love that, the hunt, just the challenge to do that. A lot more job satisfaction that way. I mean, I still got a lot of job satisfaction just by watching team members succeed from things that I help them with. But being able to do it, by myself, direct, was a bigger satisfaction for me.
Yeah, the thrill of the close.
Thrill of the
I
close.
feel that completely. I would get tired of sitting in meetings and I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to get in the field. And so I would go in the field with salespeople and sell because I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize when they're getting into management is I don't want to say it's not as fun, but I want to say you don't get your hands dirty as much. So if you really enjoy that customer interaction, if you really enjoy the problem solving and sitting there and the thrill of winning against the competitors and getting that purchase order, then you may not want to move into management because you probably will spend 10 or 15% of your time selling and the rest of your time you're having to sell through impact, right? You're coaching people and developing them. And I think that it's important for us as people to understand where we really get our joy from. Like, do you want to influence by impact or do you want to influence in the direct sales motion?
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is when I looked at the two, um, you could actually make more money in direct sales than in sales management in some of these cases. And I've
I
had
think
people ask me, why would you manage why are they getting paid more than you? I said, because they're the ones in the trenches. They're the ones that are really putting in the hours that are, I mean, not that I wasn't putting in hours, but they're the ones that are really working hard at they're the reason we're getting the sale. So that's where the compensation should be. I've got no problem with that. In some cases, like I don't want to do what they're doing right now. The travel, these they're spending weeks over in Europe or whatever. It's the amount of travel that the successful ones did in the machinery side was crazy.
right.
That
And that's the balance,
it
right?
is.
As
Yeah.
a top salesperson, as a manager, I always wanted myself. I like you should make more than me
Yep.
because you're out on the road more. You're having to deal with the stress. Like I want my top salespeople to make more than me as a manager, and you spend more nights on the road than you're spending at home with your family, right? And so there is a trade off. So if you want to go to the office every day and only spend maybe 2 or 3 days on the road a month, you can go into management. And again, if that's what you enjoy, mentoring. But I think that a lot of times what happens is when people step into management, they fail because they don't know what it's really like. They don't realize you're getting paid less money, you're
Yep.
doing more work,
Yeah.
and anything bad that happens comes to you.
Right.
So it's really you have to make a conscious decision about that.
Yeah. No, I mean you're the one that's ultimately accountable for what's happening in the field.
Yeah, yeah,
So if they're not succeeding, it comes back to you.
yeah.
And not a lot of managers really own up to that either, so it's that's the other challenge that you come into. But no, absolutely. And then the meetings,
Yeah.
the amount of meetings you have to go through, especially in some of the larger companies, is
Yeah.
crazy.
It's a
So
lot.
yeah.
Well, John, you have given us a lot of your time and talent today, and I thank you. If people want to reach out to you, they want to learn more about what you're doing and more about you, what's the one best way for them to contact you?
I would say, well, either by phone or email. I don't know,
Okay.
you have my phone? I
Yeah.
think, okay, yeah.
We'll put it, yep. So you will have your email address in the show notes for you.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay, awesome. Well,
Good.
thank you so much for your time, your talent, and your expertise. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right. Bye bye.
All right. Yep. Bye-bye.